subscribe, hit that like. Let's craft the day and light the night. Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts, run by Tony, it's true. We're making magic just for you.
Ever wondered about the different ways you can make inlays? Well, I'm going to show you 5 different ways that you can make inlays from these embossing pads. Now, I haven't got the machine for these embossing pads, and I don't really know what they were for, but the minute I seen them, I had to give them a go. So we're going to start off with some air dry clay. So one side is embossed and the other side is inverted, which I didn't really realise until I'd made about 3 of these. So like I say, we're going to start off with some air dry clay. So this one is a bit of a long one, so I have sped a few bits up for you. Now the reason I'm rolling my air dry clay out with a deodorant can was because at this point I didn't have a rolling pin, but I had been on Amazon and ordered one. So I'm just laying the air dry clay flat onto one side of this embossing pad, and I'm just pushing down onto the other side really hard and using my temporary rolling pin just to push down. Now you can see it's made an absolutely stunning pattern. So this is like a wood effect. So at this point I didn't know whether I was going to pour the silicone onto these inlays or to create the inlays when it was still wet, or whether I was going to wait until it dried. So I needed to pop it into something that was going to hold the silicone. So I put it into the lid of a food tub, which has got like a slight dip. So I managed to get the pattern that I wanted in the middle and just gently patting it down to make sure that there's enough of an edge that we can pour a very, very thin layer of silicone. Now I definitely know that the silicone works on wet air dry clay. Whether it works on dry air dry clay, I don't know. So I think we'll find out. So we'll do both ways. So here I am just trimming it off so that I can use the rest of the air dry clay. Now I did make a few of these. All done exactly the same way. Some small bits, some big bits. Some pieces that I can use for jewellery, some I can use for coasters. So I decided on the next one to just put it on the one side. So I had the pattern just on the one side rather than both. So these are them dry. Now I didn't get a chance to pour the silicone on them while they were wet, but I will do that at some point. But I think that it's made a really, really lovely pattern in these, and they're going to make absolutely stunning inlays. As you can see, there's loads of different patterns. I've got about a pack of 6 or 7 of them. Some of them are embossed, some of them are indented, and that's exactly what I wanted. But I think these have come out really, really well. And it's the first time I'd done this. I'd had these embossing pads for, I'd say probably 18 months and never used them. So yeah, this is probably a good use for them. If anyone can let me know in the description exactly what the embossing pads are for, then please feel free to drop me a comment. Next up, we're going to use some silicone putty to do exactly the same. So I'm just taking this out. This is a part A and part B. So you have got a white and a blue part to make it really easy to know when you've fully mixed it in. Now this stuff sets in about 15-20 minutes or so, with about 3 minutes mixing time. All links are in the description as usual. This one is off Amazon, I believe. But yeah, really easy to mix up, really pliable, and really quite sturdy. So I'll put you on fast forward just while I do exactly the same as I did with the air dry clay. After I've finished rolling, I then place it over the embossing pad. This took a little bit of fiddling about, and I did have to add an extra piece to it. But once I managed to get it flat, I just pushed them on like I did with the air dry clay. Now this is the following day and they are completely cured. Now look at the pattern on that. They've turned out really, really well. But because we've got one side that's embossed and one side that's indented, I didn't really think about the logistics of popping this into a mould and having no seepage underneath. So I thought, right, we're going to have to give these a go to see if they're going to work. I decided to use these trays for this. So I've just popped them in, but I was unsure whether they were going to work because they were both had imprints on both sides, whether the resin would seep under. Sorry, that's my curing machine beeping. Yeah, so I just laid them into the moulds. Now this silicone putty usually has a really, really nice outcome with the inlays. But again, I didn't know whether I'd gone too thick with this one and having it both sides would affect the tray. So let's give it a go. So I am using the Let's Resin neon powders and a blue from, I think this was a pack from Temu. I will try and link both in the description. So I'm just mixing my resin up, making sure that that colour is all thoroughly mixed in. Now with mica powder, I'd suggest when you mix it, you leave it on the side just for 3 or 4 minutes, because if there's any unmixed powder, it will rise to the surface. So I usually mix mine, pop it on the side for a couple of minutes, and then give it another mix before I put it in the mould. Now you can see with this Let's Resin neon one, this is the first time I've used these neon powders, and I've had them for ages. It is quite bitty, so it does really need a good mixing. So I'm just pouring the blue into the larger one, really, really gently. Fingers crossed at this point that it was going to work. Oh, the entire video had been for nothing. Just making sure. How's that for measurements? And again with the red. Now it looks like I'm pouring from a height, but it's not, it's just the camera angle. Now I do, whenever I get a new mould, I like to measure it with water or rice, and then pop it into a sealed bag with a hook on the end. And then I write what mould it is and how much resin it takes to make things easier. So just a little tip there for you. So this is fully cured now, so I'm just demoulding it. Fingers crossed. And we've got a little bit of seepage, but nothing major, and it was really, really easy to peel off. And it was harder to try and get the corner just to get the inlay out. So yeah, you can see this literally just peels off. Now I was working with my old phone, so unfortunately it's got this mad habit of cutting out at the really random times, and this was one of those times. So unfortunately it didn't film me taking it out, but this is the result. So on to the blue one. I was really pleased that these had worked, because it's such an easy way and cheap way of making your own inlays, and there's so many designs of them embossing pads. And the same thing with the blue, literally just pick it off. The same as you would get really with most inlays. And look at the pattern it's created. I was really, really pleased with them. But because of having the inlay, you can see that you've got these edges. So I wasn't happy with that. So I decided to try and glam these trays up just a little bit. So for the red one, I have these glitter UV resin. These are off Temu. They were quite cheap when I bought them, but when I've checked recently, they are, they're quite expensive gone. So I'm using a white, a silver, and a black. So I am going to speed this up for you because this did take a while. It was really, really fiddly. But I'm just randomly going into all the little love hearts with the 3 different colours, and then popping it under my UV light to cure, and then we're going to pop a top coat of resin onto it. Look at that shine when she put the neon light onto it. Now I'm unsure whether these are actually glow in the dark. Now I know the blue one isn't, but I don't know about the Let's Resin. For the blue one, now this wasn't the tidiest. I wished I'd have doubled the layer up or done something at least but I just went round the edge with the silver and then popped some resin onto it. Now this video was long enough without having to see me mix my resin up and pour resin onto a tray. Yes, and then I popped them into my curing machine. In the meantime, I thought, right, let's see if they work with EcoPore, since I was working on another project and I had a little bit left. So I used the same Love Heart inlay that I used for the previous tray. And I'm just taking it out of the Aquacast. There is a discount code for Elachem down below for 15% off and free UK delivery. And that has actually worked. It's left a really, really nice pattern. Again, it's left them edges, which I could either sand down or I could make the inlay bigger. That's not an issue. This was just to see whether they would work. And they have. So the result on silicone putty is, yeah, it works. So on to the next one. Now for this one, we're going to go with UV resin. This one's a little bit different and it was purely experimental. So I thought, right, what if we were to put some UV resin directly onto these embossing plates and then cure it? We could cut them up, put them into little jewellery pieces. We could use them as inlays because we could pour silicone onto them. Since doing this video, I have discovered Diction's brush on silicone, and I will link the video at the end. Now I know how to do that. Yeah, I know, I feel really clever. It's taken me ages, nearly 6 months. So I'm just using my silicone spatula just to pop some UV resin all on these pieces. Now I wasn't sure which side to do it on, so I did try a piece on both sides. So I'm just making sure that just the small area is covered, and then I've got some dichroish film. You can use the cellophane wrap that you use for flowers. Any kind of film would work for this, even the nail art foils. And I'm going to close it up, push it down, and I'm going to pop it underneath my light. Now you can see there's already a piece curing already. Now there's a reason for that. So I just wanted just a clear piece of UV resin with that pattern embossed on it. Now you have got to make sure that the UV resin comes right above the top of the inlay, particularly when you're using the embossed side. So I decided to try it on the other side. Now this side worked better because the UV resin runs into the ridges rather than tries to sit on the ridges, if that makes sense. Back to the one with the dichroish film. Now I'm just prising this apart gently and then peeling it off. And wow, look at that outcome. I did put it back underneath my UV light for a while. This was again before I had my new double-sided UV light. This one was on its way out, so it did need a little bit longer. So things were coming out a little bit more tacky than I needed them to. But yeah, it really worked. So this was a second piece that I did. And rather than clamp it together, I just popped it on the one side and then popped it underneath my light. Now this was the one. I don't know whether the camera's picking it up very clear, but yeah, it turned out absolutely stunning. These were just tester pieces, so forgive the edges, but you can see the pattern is embossed through the dichroish film. Now, like I say, you could cut them up and pop them into jewellery. You could make a bigger one and put them in coasters. Now, this is against a white background, and this is against a black background. Now, look at the difference. That is absolutely stunning. That's going to make some fantastic jewellery pieces. Now, I will be making some jewellery pieces and other bits with these on a different video, as this one is about 24 minutes long. So back to the clear piece. Now, I am using the Chameleon Powders by Let's Resin, and I have left it so that it's sort of tacky, just so that the powder would stick to the one side. So I've just got a little makeup brush here, and I'm just rubbing I think this is the Blue Shift Chameleon powder all over the piece. Now, this did take a little bit, like I say, because it wasn't as tacky as I wanted it to be. And I did go over it a couple of times. You can see it's slightly patchy. But I did a couple after this and made sure that I left it just a little bit more tacky so that the powder would adhere to it a little bit more. I did try using alcohol to try and make it stick a little bit. But yeah, this is behind a black background. And you can see in jewellery, this is going to be absolutely stunning. And this is behind a white background. Still a bit patchy, it's more patchy behind the white. But again, they worked. So the possibilities for this are endless. So this gave me the idea of using the dichroish sheets in different colours to make like a sheet of paper, is the best way to describe it. Now, I did exactly the same thing as I did with the dichroish film, but I used this beautiful flower embossed pad for this one. And I just wanted to see what the different colours and the different films would look like done with this technique. And I absolutely loved the outcome. So I literally just put sheets of the dichroish film. I did close it up, but not push it down. I just literally left it shut and then popped it underneath the UV light. But look at that, absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, there's 4 different ways of creating inlays to pop into your jewellery pieces. Like I say, I will be doing a video on these pieces, and in that video I will also be using some silicone on the air dry clay, and then we'll be using them for some stunning pieces. So last but not least, like I said earlier on in the video, I had found Diction's brush on silicone. So I thought this is going to be ideal for this. It is a really, really thick, brushable silicone, and really sort of pliable, and you can really, really work with it. So I thought, there's no chance of this running off the edge, so I didn't need any kind of dam and that's how simple this was. I was so amazed with the results of this. I can't rant enough about this stuff. So I'm just mixing some up. There is a lot of bubbles in this, as I've said in previous videos, but it doesn't really make a lot of difference to the end result because the bubbles are within the silicone rather than on top. So it doesn't make any dips, if I'm making any sense. So I'm just using a spatula just to put a thin layer right the way across both of these pieces because I wanted the inlays to be indented and inverted. Is that the same thing? Indented, inverted? Anyway, you get what I mean. So I put enough on both sides. Now, like I say, this didn't run off the edge. It was just fabulous stuff to work with. So I'm just making sure that this is flattened across the both of them. So I'm just using a stick just to go right to the edge. Like I say, this stuff is that thick that there's no risk of it coming off the edge. It literally just sits just where you need it to. So I'm making sure that I'm covering all the grooves and that it's all in the indents on the other side. And then I left it to cure. When I say left it to cure, I mean I left it for 13 minutes. 13 minutes, guys. Really, honestly, I couldn't believe it. An inlay created in under 15 minutes. So like I say, this was 13 minutes later. And they were really, really easily to peel off. This is going to be my way of creating inlays from now on. This is the stuff to use. Although the other methods work and they all have their place, you can see these are thin, fine, really, really detailed, absolutely stunning. I was so, so pleased with them. So this is the opposite side, and you can see that the one side has got the grooves on inwards, the other one's got them outwards, and the same with this flower one. This is going to make some absolutely beautiful pieces. So if you haven't already subscribed and you want to see what I make with these stunning inlays, then yeah, just hit the bell below to get notifications on all my future videos. Now you can see this is an absolutely stunning pattern. Really, really nice. So as you can see, there are so many uses for these embossing pads. Yeah, we've got air dry clay, we've got silicone putty, UV resin, and the diction brush on silicone. So I'm going to leave you with some glamour photos. I hope this video has been helpful and you've enjoyed it. If so, drop me a thumbs up. I've been Tony from Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. Stay safe and happy crafting. Bye for now.
Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts, run by Tony, it's true. We're making magic just for you. Pour the resin smooth and slow. Watch it sparkle, watch it flow.